What is good, my peoples? Welcome to another edition of the GreenBaje podcast. As always, that is AJ. He is the green. I am Ken. I am the beige. And we welcome you to another week 14 of the GreenBaje podcast. Of course, we do want to apologize for a little bit of a late start. But you know how it is with technology. Things can always go wrong at the most inopportune moments. AJ,
hmm
what is going on, my brother? How's the things?
I'm doing well, sir. Yeah, that's all I can say at this point. All is well, all is well. Looking forward to this interesting World Cup. That's something we will get into a bit more later. But yeah,
Of course. Of course. No, this World Cup is really the gift that keeps on giving, in it? Because as much as we have had lots of things to say about the tournament before it finally got started, since it's gotten started, it has been quite exciting. Now, today we are talking cups and skin ups, according to the title of today's episode. The World Cup has set its final 8 teams, and it was a wild and exciting ride to get to this point. The college football playoff is also set with Georgia, Michigan, TCU, and The Ohio State University contesting the right to be crowned college football champion. AJ, do you know what TCU stands for? Just a quick aside. Do you know what TCU stands for?
Texas Christian University.
Yes, that is correct. I had absolutely no idea until I
I,
googled it
I
this
only
afternoon.
knew because I only knew that when I moved to Texas, honestly, because we sell TCU gear where I work. That's the
Okay.
only reason I know.
Understood. But you know, one of the things that makes me feel really good about the 4 teams in the playoff. I mean, everybody by now should know that I'm not the biggest college football guy. But there's one thing that stays all the time in college football with Ken, and that is that he does not like Alabama. And the fact that there was no room for Alabama makes me feel very good. Now, also, we had Coach Prime. He decided to make a move that has many in the Twitterverse and the media, and I guess wherever you go, pissed off. But first, before we get to all of that, we go off the rip with the NFL's Week 13, where injuries popped up in more significant places than anyone would have hoped for. It is four down territory time, and AJ, you know how we like to do it. We go first down with the biggest winner of the weekend, and who was that for you?
I was waiting. I was waiting patiently until last night's game finished so I could put these guys on Monday night's game rather, so I could put these guys as the biggest winners.
All
It
right, so
has
before you do
uh
that, then because that is going to take me right into something that has been brewing for a while. I'll go first on this one, right? So you can say what you have to say, and then yeah. All right. So my biggest winner for this week was actually no, that's the wrong one I'm looking at. It was the Philadelphia Eagles. No, the reason I gave the Philadelphia Eagles the biggest win of this weekend was that these Eagles remind me very much of that Leicester team that won the Premier League back in 2016. A team coming into the year that nobody had great expectations for. A head coach that nobody knew how good he was, but somehow has the team playing complementary, winning football. Players that were overlooked and undervalued both by onlookers and their former clubs, but put in championship level performances. And a team that every week just continues to win and hangs around at the top of the division and dares to dream as it gets later in the year. The Eagles are 11 and 1 with the head-to-head tiebreaker of the Vikings by virtue of their dominating week 2 win. They came up against who we consider to be a tough buttoned up unit in the Tennessee Titans, a team that is supposed to be a tough out for all opposing offenses and an impossible to contain rushing attack that is buoyed by the guiding hand of Ryan Tannehill. Nothing went right for Tennessee on Sunday, and full credit for the Philadelphia Eagles to make them, the Tennessee Titans, look discombobulated. Jalen Hurts was immense yet again when he connected on almost 75% of passes with 380 yards and 3 touchdowns on the day. AJ Brown showed the Titans exactly what they let go with 8 receptions for 119 yards and 2 touchdowns. which may have contributed to the GM, John Robinson, getting the boot. The defense held Derrick Henry to 30 yards rushing and Tennessee as a team to 87 yards rushing and 209 yards of total offense on the day. The Eagles right now look the absolute strongest, most balanced team in the entire NFL. When you couple their win with a Giants and Commanders tie, they are hands down the biggest winners of this NFL weekend, regardless of what you are about to say. But Omar Clark, he comes in the comments and he says that the 49ers were his biggest winner of the weekend. And I'm sure that there'll be a little bit more on the 49ers in the segments to come. So, AJ, go ahead.
I think the Eagles are a solid pick, by the way. Let me say that. Um, the reason I would not have given them biggest is because I fully expected them to win that game. You know how I felt about the Titans coming into the season, and I feel like some of those concerns are now being realized at this crucial point in the season, right? Omar, I think that's a solid pick as well because, of course, we all know I expected them to win that after Jimmy G went down. But so let me get into my pick, and it was from the Monday night game. No, it's no surprise that one of the most discussed topics that we've engaged in since we've been doing this, Ken, is this divisional matchup, your divisional matchup of your Saints team against those Bucks, right? And I'm pretty sure we were both sitting watching that game on Monday night, thinking that based on how the gameplay was going, that the Saints would see out the game, right? Because well, they normally do take care of Tom Brady in the regular season since he has been in that division. It's been like the status quo, and it would have been a damning loss for the Bucks because your Saints were actually closing in on the top of that division. Like there was a single game separating both teams, right? But the manner in which Tom was able to lead the team down the field and score on those last two drives, and mind you, this is despite Donovan Smith, who clearly is a new Eric Flowers, because this man he can't block. All he can do is hold. This is he's the most penalized player in the NFL this season. Come on, bro. As a left tackle,
He has received the most holding penalties since
oh,
he's been in the league.
man, bro. You see that I didn't even know. This man can't play the game. Anyhow, that's just a side note. But the manner in which the Bucks offense, led by Tom Brady, was able to drive on the field those last two drives, and even after that one touchdown pass to Godwin had to get called back because of that hold, they still were able to score after despite that. As, First of all, that's part of the reason I told you I do not think that Tom Brady is going off of a cliff. A quarterback who's falling off of a cliff cannot do that, and this is not the only time this season that he's led a comeback fourth quarter win, right? There's a lot more stats to go behind what happened Monday night, but let me wrap this up so you could get into your rant. Now, has Tom declined? Of course. I don't think anyone's denying that. There's no question about it. And by the way, all credit to the defense, the Bucks defense, because they came up big when they needed to in the clutch moments of that game, right? And the win may not mean much in terms of like actually winning the NFC. We know the Bucks are not going to be like the top seed in the NFC either, but I think it was a great win for them to get a little bit of momentum rolling. It could put a spark into the season, the remainder of the season, whatever's left of it, and obviously for Tom, it was something that was like a mental block for him, and this could be like a huge victory going forward. That's why I say they're the biggest winners. I see you chomping at the bit. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So let me just move over here and just change this caption from biggest winner to biggest loser, right? Because really and truly, if it were not for the feelings involved in this, the Indianapolis Colts would have been the biggest loser this weekend. And for you, the probably might be. But AJ, this week is the last week that I talk about these 2022 New Orleans Saints. The last week. My team is near and dear to my heart, and the one thing that they were able to do consistently, and right now the record still is in their favor because in the regular season at least it's 4-2, and both of the losses to the Buccaneers in the regular season are this season. But I said it last night on WhatsApp. I didn't express it as colorfully as I felt, and I won't do it here because we are a G-rated broadcast. We don't do things that the children can't watch. But the Saints, the way how I feel about that team right now, I feel they need to be disbanded. I think we just need to tear it right down to the studs and come back up again. So I have been lamenting all season long that my Saints offense has not been good enough. That
Mm-hmm.
they cannot put the points on the board that we need to put on the board so that we can actually win these games. When you look at the names on my team offensively, you start with Michael Thomas, who missed all of last season with an ankle injury, was supposed to be good coming into this season, ended up on IR after like week 2 or week 3. I know it's done for the year. Okay. You have Jarvis Landry, who still shows that he still has a bit of juice. And he has played well when he's on the field, but he's not been on the field often enough. You have Chris Olave, who is a rookie and by far has been my best and most consistent receiver all season long. When Alvin Kamara was being rumored to go to the Buffalo Bills, I prayed to the Lord above and told him, do not let this happen. Please do not let this happen. Do not let my favorite player, who is on my favorite team, leave. But right now, if I were him, I would be walking up to Mickey Loomis's office and say, hey, when the season is over and you can trade me, trade me. I don't care where you send me. Just get me out of here. But of course, he still has that case pending from the assault
Yeah.
allegations in Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to wait and see how that one plays out. But if I was him, I would call the district attorney in Vegas and say, hey, listen, let's get this show on the road. Because I'm most likely going to get suspended anyway. So how about I be suspended for the rest of this season? I can take my 6 games for the rest of this year so I can be ready to start wherever I am next season. AJ, I'm looking at Pete Carmichael, who is the offensive coordinator. Because you cannot tell me that if you are the offensive coordinator for the New Orleans Saints and your best player on offense is Alvin Kamara, that we can be talking about week 13, week 14, and Alvin Kamara has not been given the touches requisite of the feature piece in our offense. I'm watching that game last night and I'm seeing other running backs getting the ball, getting opportunities, going through holes that for some reason are not there when Kamara has the ball. When Kamara breaks out from the backfield and is open for a pass, Andy Dalton is not even looking his way. But this is the man that should be your feature piece in your offense.
Yeah.
And that comes down to Pete Carmichael, who is the offensive coordinator, who I don't know if you remember, but I remember, didn't necessarily even want to come back to New Orleans after it was announced that Sean Payton was leaving. We
I
had to
actually didn't know
wait.
that.
We had to wait on this man to decide that he was coming back. So no, if we had to wait on you to come back, and this is what you have been able to do, well, sir, thank you for your service, but there's the door. You cannot be telling me that Taysom Hill is getting all of these opportunities when we have the running back equivalent of Debo Samuel. Why can't Alvin Kamara be placed out on the outside to give us some more production when our wide receivers are dropping down like flies? We are keeping him in the backfield. He's getting 2 and 3 yards to carry. We had, I think they said it was 240 some odd yards over the last 4 games rushing. But our best piece is a running back, and we can't utilize him at all. At all. And then Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill is outside of Kamara. He's our next best offensive weapon, and probably he's the most versatile of the lot because he plays quarterback, he plays tight end, he plays wide receiver, he plays running back, he punt returns, he does everything. But why then is it that Taysom Hill is not given the opportunities to play at tight end though? Like I watch the Saints every week because thankfully DirecTV decided to give us a Sunday ticket again. Thank you very much. I'm able to watch every Saints game, AJ. Every single one, every single game, even the ones we win. I am there looking and saying, but something is still wrong here. Why is it that we're struggling in the ways that we are? I'm not talking about the Saints again. For my own sanity, for my own peace of mind, I am going to have to disconnect from this team in New Orleans for the rest of this year. Because the one thing that we should have been able to hang our hats on is that we had not been swept. We have beaten the Bucks 2 seasons in a row, and we had not been swept by them for a while. And we lead this game last night up until the fourth quarter because my offense all of a sudden we can't get 10 yards in 2 possessions. We give Brady back the ball after he's just marched down the field, and I'm like, all right, so we just need a first down. Any first down. I don't care how you get it. Just get the down first down. And you couldn't get one first down. You're giving rushes to somebody other than Alvin Kamara. And then because the defense on the Buccaneers is setting out to stop him on the third down play, you're still trying to force the ball to him. Nobody else is open. You're gonna tell me that on second down, when we need the first down, that your best option is to go play action on a jumbo package when you don't have the wide receivers on the outside? Seriously, Pete Carmichael? That's what we're doing? That's what we're doing in 2022? No. Mm-mm. The one thing I need to see is that he is fired at the end of the season. Everybody else can stay, but he has to go. I'm sorry, but I've been ranting long enough. Who's your biggest loser, man?
I know that was cathartic, though. I understand where that comes from. Uh, we move on so you could get past it. My biggest loser of the week. I mean, I obviously knew that you were going to say the Saints, so I didn't want to be repetitive. Um, I actually had a few options on. I wanted to say the Broncos too, but who am I kidding? They're never the biggest loser. They're just losers.
Yes.
So I'd have to say that my biggest losers of the week would be the Miami Dolphins, right? Because I think that this was a really big opportunity and they wasted it. Jimmy G went down very early in the game, and the Niners are no, because let's not forget, Jimmy G was actually their backup quarterback this season.
Yep.
So now they're down to their third string quarterback. And listen, we know how legit that Niners defense is. They have dogs on that defense, right? Them boys got dogs in them, right? But and also, yeah, correct, Omar. We're on the same wavelength. And we also know how brilliant Shanahan is with his offensive mind and how he runs that offense, how he orchestrates it. But come on. Despite all these factors, Miami's not a dud of a team. That's the thing. It's not like they're and these are the kinds of games that you need to be capitalizing on, especially in these sorts of situations. When you're playing against with your franchise QB, playing against a third string QB, you can't be losing these games. No, granted, the Niners defense is better than Miami's, but Miami doesn't have a bad defense, Ken.
It's
I
true.
don't think any of us would sit here and say Miami has a bad defense. So the fact of the matter is that the offense just wasn't able to put up numbers. And granted, Jalen Waddle, if I remember correctly, went down rather early. I didn't see the game, but in terms of just following, because I know he left me with like 0 points in fantasy or something like that. Either way, um, I still don't think that that was an excuse. And the name of the game right now for a team in in the Dolphins position, in that cluster of teams, the Dolphins, the Chiefs, the Bills, they're all trying to get that AFC top spot to get home field advantage. This was a huge opportunity for the Dolphins that they wasted. That's why I think they're my biggest losers of this of week 13.
Okay, no problem. I have something about the Dolphins and the 49ers, but that's going to
Okay,
come in a second.
that's
Um,
cool.
so, least impressive. Who was your least impressive win this weekend?
Well, I just mentioned the Broncos, so it has to be the Ravens. Let me just be succinct here. Like beating the Broncos after Lamar Jackson exits with an injury is not really inspiring much confidence because I still feel that at the end of the day you should be beating the Broncos. He's my camp at that point. So and 10 points was enough to do it, right? It was had to be like the dullest game of the weekend. The concerning part about this is that we don't know how long Lamar is going to be out. I don't think there was a report saying that as yet.
Well,
Um,
what Harbaugh has said is that he doesn't, like, they don't have a confirmed timeline. It is week to week. So, the expectation is he's not playing next week, but we'll
okay.
see when he does come back.
Okay, so I guess that is my main concern: how long he will actually be out. Because as I previously mentioned as well, like it's coming down to crunch time in the season, and this is a team that's supposed to be making a deep playoff slash Super Bowl run. And
Hmm.
as well as Tyler Huntley is deputized in Lamar's absence, he ain't the guy that's going to lead them to the Super Bowl, though, or
That's
even
true.
on this deep run. So uh, definitely that is the most concerning win.
For me, the least impressive win was Cleveland's win over the Houston Texans in the Deshaun Watson Bowl. You know, Deshaun finally made his return from suspension. It was named starter for the homecoming dance in Houston. And while the Browns got the win, he didn't play a good game. He went 12 for 22 with 131 yards and a pick. You know, it's kind of like if you don't play football for over a year, maybe, things tend to go a little bit awry. We could just look back at Mike Vick for that. Now, the Browns' run game was just okay on the day, 174 yards and 38 carries, but the defense had to come to their rescue as the offense had zero touchdowns on the day, with Donovan Peoples-Jones the only offensive player to score a touchdown from a punt return. The Browns are
Which
out
one
of
was fun?
contention for the postseason. But if you're paying a man $230 million fully guaranteed, you'd expect that he'd be better than this. Watson will hopefully be better going forward, and for Cleveland, I really hope he is. Otherwise, they'd be experiencing the same buyer's remorse that Denver, here at the Broncos again, has of that massive contract that Russell Wilson has, and all the PR hits that they have taken would be for nothing. All right, so now the biggest surprise. What was your biggest surprise on fourth down for this week of NFL action?
Ah, Sin City, man, the Raiders. The Raiders, they're showing some signs of life. Um, you know that after the Bengals, who are currently on a 4 game win streak, the Raiders are actually tied with the Bills for the second longest win streak, the current active win streak in the AFC. They both them and the Bills have won 3 in a row, which is more than, as I said, apart from the Bengals. That's actually pretty impressive given where we thought the Raiders were like a month ago. Right?
Yep.
No, it's again, this doesn't mean much in the grand scheme. The Raiders are not a playoff team in this sense, but it was really good to see them put up that kind of fight. We know what the Chargers are. You and I both waxed poetically about the Chargers last week, so I don't think it was the win itself wasn't much of a surprise, but the surprise to me is how they're showing that they haven't given up on the season. Mentally, they're showing some fortitude, and I can respect that.
Okay. Well, my biggest surprise of the weekend head back to Santa Clara, California, where the 49ers flayed and filleted the Dolphins. Unfortunately, I can't say that Jimmy G getting hurt was a surprise, but that he has a broken leg is an unfortunate circumstance. Shoutouts though go to Mr. Irrelevant of the 2022 NFL Draft, Mr. Brock Purdy, the last man picked of all hopefuls. Purdy, according to the reports, was supposedly good enough to be the Niners' backup since they were willing to let Jimmy go for the right price, which never came. Purdy comes in against the Miami D, And as you said, this is not just any poo-poo defense. This is actually a credible defense. He
Hmm.
went for 20. He went 25 of 37, 210 yards and two touchdowns with one interception. A solid first outing for a man who did not expect to make any, any at all passes this season. All right, it is. So that takes us to the end of four down territory. And now we're moving over into the college ranks. And everybody knows that I'm not the biggest college person. But even I knew about this one. Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, announced he was leaving Jackson State University and coming to this state of that I'm in, Colorado, to be the new head coach of the CU Boulder Buffaloes, Colorado University Boulder. In his 3 years at Jackson State, Coach Prime amassed a 27-5 record, completing the first unbeaten season in school history. There has been plenty of commentary about Dion's decision to leave the SWAC, the Southwestern Athletic Conference. So, how do you see it?
All right, this is a very. I think this is a very nuanced conversation,
It
and
is.
yeah, and let me start by saying that as I've gotten older and as I've grown, I've realized that there are certain things that it. Let me put it this way: it's okay at certain times to not have an opinion on something, and Ken, that's kind of how I feel here now. I
Mm-hmm.
actually don't. I am actually sitting on the fence when it comes to this situation because I feel like I understand both sides of the argument, and to me, this is just kind of one of those things where both sides could be right. Both things can be right.
Mm-hmm.
I get some of the not spewing, trying to spew hate or cast aspersions on Deion Sanders' character or anything like that, but I get some of the annoyances or grievances that folks in especially in the sports media may have with how he approached the entire thing because obviously like when you're in a coaching job one of the things you have to do is like you have to sell that you have to sell what you're doing, sell your project, sell your vision for the future, and whatnot. And even like a company's vision is supposed to be like 5 years, right? It's supposed to be
Mm-hmm.
like within the next 5 years, and that can he spent three. So I do understand that there is a little reservation with how he handled it in terms of like he went over there and he basically like got some because he got like one of the that recruit what it is the Hunter fella that was his name Travis
Mm-hmm.
Hunter or something like that.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Like he was probably one of the most prominent names that came over there, and we know it is because of what Deion Sanders and his cast assembled were doing at Jackson State University, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, as things get in motion, like he moves on to something else, and obviously this is like a different area. This is not an HBCU, so there's a little bit of trepidation there and all. I get it. The thing about it is, at the same time, I completely understand why he would want. The reality is, Ken, JSU was always going to be a stepping stone for him. He always wanted to use that to basically belay himself into a higher coaching position. Right? This was a step in. JSU wanted to give him the opportunity, and he took it because he didn't want to be anybody's assistant coach. He wanted to jump straight into coaching. So he had to start at the bottom and work his way up. So he's been looking forward to this and getting into these spaces for a while. So I can't necessarily blame that either. This is the man's. This was his plan all along. Pretty sure we all knew that, and I don't. People shouldn't act no like they don't know. Like this is Prime was trying to move his way up the ranks, right? So honestly, it's just one of those things. I'm not outraged by the move. I just kind of understand both, and I'm really just here in the middle. I don't have a full opinion on it. That's why I haven't been participating in many discussions on it because I've just been thinking back and forth and I can't really come to a conclusion or say, well, you know what, I feel that strongly about this. This is the one time I'm actually stumped. I think I get it. I get both sides. So I'll let you because I know you had a bit more to say about it in one of it. chat, so I will let you go ahead.
Okay, no problem. So Dion, one of the reasons why Dion is getting the flack that he's getting is because of the things that he said when he first went to Jackson State. And if he had not made comments with regards to, I guess, HBCUs in general, and he had just talked about him coaching and how he's looking forward to coaching, then maybe the outrage isn't then what it is right now. Now, when Dion first got to Jackson State, he said, I didn't leave my 100 acres and a mule to come here for a paycheck. We're going to win. We're going to look good while we win. We're going to have a good time while we win, and we're going to do this professionally. I believe this is going to be a marriage made in heaven, and I cannot wait to get started. Apparently, this heaven made marriage is only for 3 years. He didn't even do the 7 years that we usually hear about when that's rumored when eyes start to wander and hearts start to flutter in other directions. Now, this is not necessarily uncommon talk from any head coach who goes into a new job, but because it was a high profile former athlete going to an HBCU, and for those who are not quite aware what an HBCU is a historically black college or university. This was heralded to be a game changer for HBCUs. HBCUs are almost all underfunded and unable to attract the best coaches and athletes. Dion's presence, success, and money, because it's not a case to say he didn't put some of his own money into this project, were all key for the HBCUs, but they thought that he'd be there forever, partly because of his own rhetoric. And they did not do everything they could to capitalize, and now they're upset because while they didn't kill the goose laying the golden eggs, the goose decided it wanted to go to another farm. For the record, I personally do not believe that Dion did anything wrong. He had a job, he got a job offer, and he moved from this job to another job. In the US, especially with so many at will states, where basically you are here because you want to be here, and because the place that hired you wants you to be there too. You don't need a reason to leave, and just the increase in pay is enough reasons. Dion said that he made this move from an HBCU to a PWI, which is a predominantly white institution, for his coaching staff because they too would get raises. Sanders was not the savior of HBCUs, but most people treat him like he was Jesus. And I'm 100% behind him moving. And him coming to Colorado doesn't matter in my feelings on the situation. The fact still remains that Sanders had a job. He was always going to move from this job. And all the institutional issues that HBCUs have are very valid. And they're very unfortunate that still in 2022 we can still be battling against a lot of these racial issues because that's what it comes down to. There's a reason why there's a conference for the HBCUs, and then there's the Power Five, which has the PWIs, the formerly or what was it? What was they call it just now? PWI.
Predominantly white.
Yes, the predominantly white institutions. And Boulder, I mean, is in Colorado, so do not be fooled. Boulder definitely earns its title as a PWI, as a city and as a school. But at the same time, Dion coming over here, he's going to make his money. The school is going to hopefully be better. He's going to have an opportunity to show that he's not just a name, but he can actually do the coaching. I'm all for it. Give him a chance to see what he can do. Some people said that he would rather go to one of the worst PWIs because Colorado went 1-11 this last season, rather than stay at the best HBCU that just went 12-0. We only time will tell. But I'm all for him moving, and especially if he's looking out for his own because he's bringing his coaching staff with him.
That's fair. Like I said, I completely get that side as well. The reason why I empathize with the other side of the argument is because people have the free will to make whatever choice they make, especially if it is for the betterment of their self. Like, and And in this sense, he was actually trying to take some people along with him. I could very much respect that, right? I just don't like when people spit some BS rhetoric to try and sell you on something and then or just state your intentions. So I guess that is why I understand that side. It's kind of like the same concept of why I was angry with Van Persie after all these years. It wasn't because he went to Manchester United. It was because he was about the little boy in me said to go to Man. Like, bro, just shut up and make a transfer. About the little boy, that was really hurtful. It was hurtful to Arsenal fans. We all knew you grew up as an Arsenal fan. Shut up. You know what? Let me not go down that line.
Yes,
But
please don't, because we'll be here for the rest of the show talking about Judas, and I don't really want to get into that today.
right. So I was just using that reference to compare to say so I get why there is that side of the discussion, but at the end of the day, like I said, I'm not going to. I do not hold it against Dion, but I understand certain elements of why there is a little outrage at it, and it shouldn't even be outrage, but it should just be a slight annoyance rather.
Yeah, like I said at the beginning, if he did not say the things he said
Yeah,
when he first came talking about how that he was going to save HBCU football and all that,
yeah, precisely.
then then I would be more on his side, because
Yeah,
the other side does have a reasonable growth, but I'm never going to get upset with a man for trying to move himself up and
exactly,
bring his others with him. All right.
exactly.
So now, AJ, now to the real reason why we're here. And you are in your colors. I had to make sure I put mine on as well, because I cannot allow you to represent and I not wear mine. The World Cup is now in coming into its final stages. This has definitely been an exciting tournament, full of thrills every minute. So first, we're going to do a quick recap of the group stage. In Group A, because we've had quite a few matches between the last time we were here. In Group A, we had Holland topping the group and Senegal coming through in second. I mean, I don't think that was too surprising. Qatar and who was the other team in that group? Qatar and Ecuador. Right. I don't think either
Yeah,
of us had
Ecuador.
picked either of those two teams to progress.
No.
Ecuador gave a good showing in the tournament, but that is the way the cookie crumbled. Group B saw England top the group with 7 points, while the USA were able to hang on by their fingernails to get the win they needed against Iran to qualify. Most importantly, making me right, and with Wales finishing bottom, AJ was wrong. In Group C, Argentina got the win they needed to top the group, while Mexico couldn't get the goal difference swing they needed to overtake Poland, bowing out of the tournament, and Poland qualified. In Group D, France fell on their last game to a surprise defeat to Tunisia. As I said, you'll never forget that night in Tunisia, AJ. But with Australia defeating the disappointing Denmark, Denmark too bowled out of the tournament. In Group E, the most excitement was found, as Japan came from behind to take down Spain, and for a brief moment, Spain and Germany were both going out of the tournament as Los Ticos of Costa Rica took the lead against the Germans, but they fought back and won the game 4-2, securing Spain's passage. But for the Germans, it was purely consolation for them, as they finished third in the group and are most likely back in Berlin by now. In Group F, Belgium crashed out after failing to get the win they needed against Croatia and finished third in a group that most would have expected them to win. And Morocco finished top after getting the final game win against Canada. Group G saw my Brazil finish top after winning their first two games, but a much changed side, similar to what happened to France, fell in their last game to Cameroon, who could leave the tournament with their heads held high, with Switzerland, who were able to secure a second spot by defeating Serbia. Group H saw Portugal also lose their final group game, but finished top, with South Korea using that victory to get through in second place, with Uruguay's win over Ghana proving meaningless outside of the drama that follows these two teams in World Cup matches. So, AJ, what do you make of this group stage? Because a lot happened, a whole lot went
It was
down.
a lot. It was a lot. Uh since you want to call out my team, we lost to Tunisia, yeah, but we made 9 changes. Like we had already secured the top
I'm
of the group.
I just said that as a passing aside, sir. I was not
Ah,
I was because I also lost my last game after making 11 changes to my starting lineup.
yeah,
So
it's what you do. So,
yeah, it's what it is.
um, and you want to point out that I was wrong about the USA anyway. I will also point out this is
Mhm.
and I feel very good about this one because I said that Morocco were my dark horse for this competition.
Yeah,
Remember, I did say so,
you
and
did
you
say that.
got that one wrong because you said it was Tunisia for you.
Yes.
But we can move past that one because there's a lot to discuss about this group stage.
Hmm.
And I did tell you in conversation outside of here that the USA actually impressed me. I was it was not that I predicted Wales to go through because I trusted Wales. I just trusted
Trusted
Wales
them more.
more than the US.
Hmm.
But to the US's credit, they fully deserved to go through in that group. Um, I really have a liking for the midfield pair of McKinney and Tyler Adams. I
Adams.
think they were the workhorses of the team. They were the heart of that team throughout the entire competition because up front, these men can't create or score, and the defense is wishy washy. Matt Turner was actually really good too. Oh boy,
Hmm.
the that Group E that ended up being boy wow. And I know there are no teams left from that group, but we'll get into that a bit further down. I, you know what? I honestly felt like after that group concluded, I honestly felt like I couldn't say in good faith that the teams who went home deserved to go home. It was very much kind of like an open group, and anything could have happened because I can't blame or I can't say that Germany didn't deserve to go through because Japan beat them in the opening game because then I'd have to say Spain don't deserve to go through because Japan beat them as well, but Spain went through. In Costa Rica's case, I think they put up a good showing outside of that 7-0, obviously. But then they bounced back to win the next game, and then they tried, but the inevitable happened, and Costa Rica just did not have the quality to keep up with the other teams in that group. So they eventually exited the competition, but they still had 3 points. So the group ended up really close, and it was closer than I expected. Um, Even with my dark horse pick Monaco, I thought that they would go through second in that group. They won the group, and then have more to talk about Morocco, obviously.
Hmm.
They, I, it, every single group had a surprise to me, honestly. Every single group had. Well, I'm like, I think both you and I got Group A. We got the
Hmm.
Netherlands, Senegal. You got another one. Yeah, I think that was the only group where I actually had both. We actually got both teams correctly. Yeah, that was the only one. So there were some surprises for me. Um, that was the first stage of the weeding out. So when we when we get into the round of 16, then we'll get a little bit more in depth. But it was a fun group stage for the most part. Kind of enjoyed what I saw.
Yeah, definitely. For me, the story of Group A was how hot Ecuador started, but I mean, they did beat Qatar, so that was to be expected. But Cody Gakpo for the Netherlands, he is looking like the real deal. So that was really good to see. I echo everything you said about the US. I have nothing more to add. Argentina played all of their group stage games either on a Saturday or in that before 6 o'clock window. So I didn't see I didn't see any of their games in group stage, to
Yeah,
be honest. But the fact that they were able to come through after losing their first game, I have to give them credit for that. I'm just, it's either that they can get sent home next round or we can send them home. So whichever, whatever, it doesn't really matter. Um, so far, the French have been very impressive. My pick for Golden Boot of Kylian Mbappe is looking very good at this
yeah,
point.
you did say Mbappe. Yeah.
Yeah, he is playing like someone who has a point to prove. So good,
Hmm.
great on him. Gubi, I am just glad that Germany gone home. I would have been glad that Spain had gone home too in the group stage. But when Germany were struggling so badly in all of these games to get some sort of production to score the goals that they needed. I was like, yes, I like this. I like how this is going. But of course, when the knockout stages begin, for the teams that are what we would consider favorites, then that's usually where the tournament starts. You do what you need to do to get through the group stage, and then you just decide that it's no time for us to go on a run, which is probably what Belgium were hoping for, except that even within their own team, like Kevin De Bruyne, he said that he didn't think that they were favorites because they were too old, which then led Jan Vertonghen to say, but maybe it's our attack that's too old because you guys didn't score any goals. So there was no harmony, there was no cohesiveness in that Belgium locker room. It played out on the field. They struggled, they got beat, they got sent home, and I was just laughing because I mean, if you I didn't. I picked Belgium to progress because of the names and the talent that they have on their roster. I thought that they would have been able to at least get out of the group. I did say that I thought Thibaut Courtois was going to be the one to win the Golden Glove. That looked pretty stupid now because he is back home in Brussels. Well, he may actually be in Madrid. Who knows? But he let in two goals.
It was
So
only two.
yeah, it's only two, but the only two. When you only score one goal in 3 games, that doesn't really help.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I thought Cameroon. I had Cameroon picked to come through with my Brazil because I didn't really trust Switzerland. I didn't believe that Serbia were going to have enough to do it. Cameroon when they lost, I don't remember who they lost to. They lost their very first game in the tournament. So they would have had to lose to Switzerland. Yes, they lost to Switzerland. Um, they kind of let me down. I was hoping that they would have been able to get through the group, and I was like, well, if Brazil has to lose a game, let them lose to Cameroon, so that Cameroon can come through as well. But they needed a bigger goal swing than what they received, so they go home. And this is the group I got wrong altogether. Group H, Portugal, South Korea, they go through. I didn't expect Uruguay to go through because I didn't think they were going to score enough goals. They finished with a goal difference of 0, having only scored 2 goals in the tournament. That isn't going to get it done. So home they go. I thought Ghana was going to be better. They were not. So home they go as well. That was the group stage. It was exciting. It was fun.
It
Oh,
was.
Dale has now joined us. He says, I am in. Well, Dale, you have to watch this episode as soon as it's uploaded because I started off being very complimentary to your Eagles. It's not my fault you got here so late, sir, but it is there for everyone to see and hear. So, AJ, that was the group stage. And now we got to the round of 16, which feels like it went by in a blur. This started on
Yeah.
Saturday. Today is Tuesday, and the games are done. It started with the Netherlands playing against the US. They beat the US 3 goals to 1. Argentina, apparently they struggled a little bit more than they probably might have thought they may have against Australia. 2-1 was the final. France beat Poland 3-1. Poland did not show up in that game, and France was very, very good. England took care of Senegal 3-0. Japan, well, they beat Croatia. Sorry, they fell to Croatia on penalties 3-1 yesterday. Brazil came out hot and rampant 4-1. They won against South Korea. And then today we had Morocco defeating Spain 3-0 on penalties after going scoreless through 120 minutes. And then Portugal, well, they had the result of the tie, which was 6-1 over Switzerland. So AJ, what did you make of this round of 16?
All right. So this was the separating the sheep from the goat, right? And to me, this is where the real tournament begins right now because these are the most intriguing matchups we will see. The reason why I said separating sheep from the goat in that round of 16 is because it felt like all of the teams who won deserve to win. I don't feel like it was that close. Even if you look, I mean, some scorelines certainly suggest that. Portugal, Brazil, I guess like England and France to a lesser extent. I'm just talking in terms of scoreline. So like they had the big wins. They were convincing all the way through. Granted, I obviously did watch France's game and I felt like we gave Poland too much of a sniff. I don't like it. I don't like it because Poland to me were the worst team that got through to the round of 16, and I felt like
Yes.
we allowed them a little bit too much freedom, and they actually looked like a good side. They're not. But anyhow, even Argentina, Australia, the scoreline doesn't necessarily reflect. Australia weren't bad by any means, right? But
Hmm.
I, Argentina still just had that tad bit more quality, even if you want to name that quality Messi to be able to pull through. But there were other factors as well. Yeah, well, yeah, Netherlands, USA. I mean, that was always going to happen too. The the team, like I said, the teams who won, they seem to win emphatically enough that you can say, you know what, they deserve these victories. The teams that won in regulation time. Then we had two that went to we had two that went to penalties. And
Hmm.
Ken, the penalty kicks that were taken in by the two losing teams, by Spain today, and then it was
Japan.
Spain on Tuesday and Japan on Monday. Those were some of the worst penalty kicks I've ever seen taken, like in a shootout. I'm not talking about just like individual kicks, but like in a shootout as a collective, as a team. Japan was terrible, and it prompted an entire discussion that I had with some friends about like the importance of actually practicing penalty kicks. No, no. Granted, you can't simulate like a World Cup situation, and there's a different kind of pressure that comes with that. I get that, and I'm not saying that the psychological element isn't more important, but you have to practice. And the Japanese looked like they did not practice taking penalty kicks. Granted, Spain looked like that today too, even though Enrique assured the press that he asked each one of his players to take 1,000 penalty kicks. That's total cap, though. We know that. You know anybody staying after training to take 1,000 penalty kicks, big man. Stop talking foolishness, too. Anyhow, but anyhow, the teams that got knocked out, like you know how people say like the penalty kicks is a lottery and all that kind of nah. The teams that got knocked out by the penalty shootouts deserved to be eliminated. Spain couldn't score a goal, and after it's like the men score all the goals against Costa Rica again,
Yeah, they scored 7 against Costa Rica.
fam, and then
So,
couldn't score one in
and then only scored 2 goals
two after
in
that.
following 3 games.
Men couldn't in 120 minutes against Morocco, and this is no slight to Morocco because again, Morocco were my dark horse, and this is not because I just felt like, well, yeah, they could attack. Now I thought they were a very good team. Spain couldn't score a goal in 120 minutes. They couldn't even convert a penalty
Hmm.
in a shootout. That's despicable. That's despicable. In Japan's case, Japan just didn't show that kind of mettle that was needed. Um, and the Croatians been here before. We know that they had two penalty kick shootout victories in the last World Cup on their run to the final.
Hmm.
So yeah, they had the experience. Granted, like some of the bigger names were on the bench because obviously, like Luka Modric can't play 120 minutes and then go kick penalties, so he was off. They had taken off Brozovic because I don't know if you know that. I think Brozovic has actually. I saw a stat that Brozovic has actually covered the most ground in the World Cup so far by any player. So this man
Impressive.
is, yeah, this man is running around a lot. So after seeing that, it made sense as to why he was pulled because he had to be gassed. At the end of the day, I'm I'm not up in arms about any of the results. All of the teams that won to me deserve to win. I'm not of the notion that the team who plays the more attractive football is the team that deserves to win. It's the team who could put the ball into the back of the net. Some of these teams in the round of 16 did that emphatically, and then those who did so in the penalty kick situation showed enough metal and mental fortitude to be able to do so. So, like I said, this is where it really begins because these are the matchups. These ones are coming up here. These are the matchups. Let me let you go before we get into that, though.
Yeah, so I'll just be quick on this one. Where what you said, I fully endorse. Um, Portugal, they were very, very efficient for the most part in the way that they performed today in the scoring of the 6 goals. And Brazil, understandably, did not take their foot off the gas in that second half. Chances are we would have put 8 or 9 in South Korea because Brazil were that irresistible. in that game, and their goalkeeper pulled off some very good saves. He had five excellent saves,
Hmm.
where you can say, if you have five excellent saves after you've already shipped four, then that says a lot. Before I go any further, Dale says that the Portugal team surprised him today. I was not expecting this. I'm pretty sure many of us were not expecting that deal because when Portugal announced that Cristiano Ronaldo was going to be on the bench, nobody expected that their backup striker, because really and truly, no, he has to be the backup striker. Nobody is going to look at where is his Gonzalo Ramos to be the guy to come in and score a hat trick in any World Cup game. Because AJ, just as an aside, have you seen Gonzalo Ramos's stats? Like
No,
what
I
he's
have
been
not.
able to do so far?
No,
So
I have
he
not.
has 4 goals in his 4 appearances for Portugal. But over his club career, he has the most appearances he's had so far is 29 appearances last season. He had
Hmm.
7 goals. This season he has been more prolific. He has
Hmm.
9 goals in 11 matches. All right,
Okay.
so that's not too bad. Champions League, he has 6 goals in 26 games. So he is a work in progress.
Hmm.
He's definitely
Definitely.
not the finished article. So I'm not here to poo poo on the man and make it seem like if he's not a good player. He's very early in his career, but you're not expecting him to come out and score a hat trick today.
Yeah.
So that was unexpected, but kudos to him. Hopefully, that means that, as I said in one of our WhatsApp chats, that Cristiano Ronaldo, when he runs off to Piers Morgan to give his next interview, he should also be taking his proctologist because he should be pulling splinters out of his backside for the rest of this tournament because obviously Portugal do not need him to score goals and play good football. So hopefully, well, we'll see how that one plays out down the road. But I wanted really to talk about Morocco and Spain. You were absolutely right about Morocco. Morocco have looked very good. They've played some really good football, and
Hmm.
I have to applaud them based on what they've done so far.
Yeah.
They played against a Spain team that seems to go into every game with the intention to pass the ball 1,000 times because they just literally go there and knock the ball all around and they don't really take a lot of shots. You can't tell me that you really want to win a tournament if Alvaro Morata is basically your only striker. He's not just the best striker, he's the only striker. You don't
Mm.
have anybody else on the bench other than Morata to come in and give you some minutes as an actual number 9. They're trying to take this false 9 thing to a whole nother extreme. So they go into this game today against a team that is going to come with the understanding that, hey, Spain is going to want to have the ball, let them have it. They can knock the ball all around, they can do whatever they want, but these little short men that they have trying to sit as a striker, not winning any headers between us, so they're not going to be able to play the balls down the flanks. We're going to force them to bring the ball to the center. We're going to crowd them, we're going to start them, we're going to make sure that they don't have any opportunities. And as the game went on, Morocco had some of the better opportunities to win the game. And then we
Mm.
get to penalty kicks. And there is something to be said about um this process or this belief that we can sub in penalty experts in the 118th minute to just come on to kick a penalty. Because England tried it last Euros. It didn't work for them. So far in this World Cup, it's not worked for anybody else either. All of these players who've been subbed in to kick penalties have missed them. So maybe you need to either get the guys out earlier so that they actually have a rhythm and a feel for the game, feel for the ball and everything. Maybe take a couple sighters, a few shots, and then let them go kick the penalties rather than you wait to the very last minute to put them on because clearly if all you brought is they're treating the penalty kick takers like the kickers in the NFL, which is we break the glass in case of emergency, run you out there so that you can just go do your job. No, these guys are football players, so you have to let them actually play football, let them feel like if they have the um the backing, like the support of their team, of their teammates, and everyone. This it doesn't work. It does not work. They're saying I had a good um, point on Morata. Oh, here we go. The spammer is here. So let's block you.
What photos of my sister? Interesting.
Yep, block user on YouTube. Why isn't it blocking? Come on. All right, so yes, there are no blocked. Perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
so
was
so
weird.
yeah, very. I mean, I guess we're big enough now, AJ, that we get spammers. So yeah, but right now that was your round of 16. The teams
Hmm.
that, to me, the teams that deserve to go through based on the balance of play are the ones that have gone through. And now we get to the exciting stuff. We look ahead as we wrap things up today. We look to the quarters. This is the round of 8. And this is where things really get exciting. Now, for the first time since the
Wait,
World Cup
actually,
start,
before you do that, right? Because I
sure.
wanted to say something quickly on the entire Spain thing as well. Because I started to talk about it in in one of our chats earlier, right? First of all, I Morata is a Ponzi scheme. It has to be. Morata is some kind of scheme because I don't understand. Like this man just does not have the mental fortitude. As I mentioned this earlier in I can't remember which segment, but Morata is not cut out for this level of football. I don't like to say that men can't play football because if you make it to the professional level, you've made it for a reason. But
Yes.
not everyone deserves to be at the top level. Morata is one of those guys. He, Ken is, and I've been saying this for years. There is no way, and he came on today, right? He did, right?
Yeah.
There is no, and you know what? Maybe he was going to take last or whatnot, but I highly doubt that he was, or he was fourth or fifth. Morata should have been one of the first penalty takers on Spain's team, but the boy doesn't take penalties because he can't, and that is a damning thing for a striker. Anyhow, with regards to the Spain team, part of me believes that this team is being built for the future, right? And I know like the conversation is that there was a lot of bias from Luis Enrique taking his young stars. The thing is, I don't think that Spain have done a good job in recent years of integrating young upcoming players with the old guard who are on their way out. They grind them boys' bones into dust, Ken.
Mm-hmm.
They play them boys till the wheels fall off, right? To try and get every single thing out of them, especially given the fact that they were the most dominant force in football for a lengthy span, right? So they were running with that, and I think now is the time when they're trying to like rebuild that Spain squad, and they're doing it by incorporating like building a young team together. Basically, obviously, you have some guys who are more experienced who will be scattered in and between the squad. But that's why I said in the group, I don't think that this side was ever really to be contenders for the World Cup. And yeah, you're not supposed to count anyone out or anything, but this team was always too young. It was always going to be they on the backs of all these young players. I don't like youth doesn't win you World Cups. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. But anyway, so we can get into the previews. And which game did you want to, or are we just generally going through it?
Yeah, I was gonna read them off first.
Yeah,
Because right now, since the tournament started, this is our first day. This will be the first days that we don't actually have football on television to watch. I
yeah,
think I'm going to be in withdrawal tomorrow because I've been spoiled. I wake up in the morning and there is football on every single day. But before we
yeah,
get there,
Dre.
Dominic has a question for you. He said, "Ready, Jay? The team you feared?"
No, I said I don't take my words out of context. What I said is on France's side of the draw, the one team that I felt that had the chance that I feared most out of everyone, and it's not that I actually feared them. The one team that I feared the most was Spain because of the fact that I think that they had the type of philosophy that could basically dominate in terms of possession. And then if they were like to be able to be a goal up on us, I thought that we would find it a bit harder to penetrate and score against them. But at the same time, I did say I don't think it's that we couldn't beat them. I just said if I had to like list all the teams on that side on France's side of the draw, like I was a bit more scared of Spain than I was of England. But I still that still doesn't mean that I thought Spain would win. That's all it is.
Okay, no problem. I had to give you an opportunity to respond to the question in the chat.
Yeah,
So
don't be
looking,
unjust.
yeah. So looking ahead, I am going to be only able to watch half of these quarterfinals because two are on Friday and two are on Saturday. Thankfully, the two that I'm going to be most interested in because they're on my side of the bracket are both on Friday. So Brazil actually has the early game. Both the two games that are the early games, I guess you could consider to be the more lopsided of the four ties. But when we look at the four ties, they are pretty even. they, these are going to be some really, really good games of football. So Dominic says that Spain lack a killer instinct, and that has been evident for quite some time. Of course, when like I said, they go trying to pass the ball 1,000 times a game, then you really can't be trying to score goals because apparently they started to think that you get goals or you get points by passes as opposed to actually taking shots and scoring. So yeah, so AJ, so Croatia Brazil on Friday morning, and then Netherlands Argentina on Friday midday my time. For those of you guys in the Caribbean, that will be yeah morning and afternoon. And then on Saturday we have Morocco Portugal in the morning, and then England and France. Your boys will be the ones to bring the quarterfinals to a close. So obviously I'm looking forward most to my game. You're looking forward most to your game. So in totality, we look at these quarterfinals. I mean, this probably would have worked better if you had been home, not if I would have been home. So when we look at this situation in totality, what are your feelings for these quarterfinals?
Well, the only fixture that to me is not that intriguing is actually yours because I don't see how Croatia stand a chance against Brazil. I think all the others are a bit more evenly matched.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, I if I remember correctly, I think I said Morocco would go to the quarterfinals. So they've kind of capped out for me. I think they've done their duty as my dark horse. So if they were eliminated from here, don't I wouldn't be upset. And I do think that Portugal can be more clinical and more decisive. So I do expect that Portugal can see this out. The other two matchups are the more interesting ones because Netherlands have been a bit up and down. Obviously they've won their games, but in the fashion that they have in some, it kind of has been a labor towards victory, and you can say the same for Argentina, even more so for Argentina. So, and obviously there's a historical element to that matchup. Like, will Argentina finally be able to win this coveted World Cup with Messi, or is it like the Netherlands? Will the Netherlands finally overcome their demons and go all the way? So there's that. For that, that is the matchup I'm more intrigued in seeing on that day. And then on obviously, like you said, it is the England France because to me on paper that is the most even and most intriguing matchup. And
Well,
there's no way I could view that objectively. So you know what my pick is going to be.
of course, of course. No, my thing is, I when I look at like, all right, so let me work backwards because my game is first. So England, France. I do not fear the English. If I was Paul Revere, I would have been in my bed sleeping because I would not be on there writing telling anybody that the English are coming. I'm sorry. So I don't fear the English. I'm definitely more concerned about your squad because of the presence of Kylian Mbappe. So I would expect that your team is going to win that game. Not necessarily in a blow, but I expect a win in that game. Then when we have Morocco playing Portugal, Morocco, can they do it again? I don't think they can do it again. So I believe that Portugal comes through in that game Not necessarily easily, but they're going to win it anyway. Netherlands, Argentina, that is probably, outside of my own game, that's the one that I'm most interested to see. Because I will not lie to you, I'm going to find an orange shirt and put on that day. Because it is not that I fear the Argentines. I just want them home as soon as possible. Now, if the Dutch team is unable to do that, then we will take care of business in the semis. Because what happened in the Copa final, anyone can look and see for the entirety of Messi's tenure with the Argentine national team. That is the anomaly. That is not what happens all the time. So I'm backing my Brazil team easily right now, all the way to the final. I believe that we have the quality that we should be able to lift this trophy. Come, I don't even know what date. I'll figure out the date when that date comes.
I think it's the 18th or what? I think it's the 18th.
Yes, Sunday, December 18th. So yeah, so I'm confident that Brazil will have what it takes to get all the way to the final. But only time will tell. Only time will tell. But I am not allowing time to dampen my enthusiasm because what I saw in the group stage, I'm not lying. What I saw in the group stage was a little bit concerning because I think that Chichi still has some things that he needs to address where the team and its balance are concerned. Some of the players that he's picking to me could really hold the bench. But then when we see some of the backups now, they haven't been filling us with confidence. Like we've been clamoring for Bruno Guimaraes to get game time in place of Paqueta, and then he played this game in place of Paqueta, and he was abysmal. He was one of the reasons why we couldn't get anything going properly against Cameroon. Gabriel Martinelli has been very good when he's been on, but unfortunately for him, he is being played in the same side on the same spot as Vinicius Jr. And Vinicius is going to start regardless. So unless Chichi gives Martinelli a spot on the right wing, then we would never see what he's able to do on that side because for some reason we never switch flanks. We how we line up is how we play. So I would like to see somebody else playing in place of Rafinha, but Anthony has not he has not done very well in this tournament, so not him. I would rather get Martinelli on the right. Unfortunately, with Gabriel Jesus getting injured now, we are left with Richarlison. But to his credit, he has been very very good in this tournament. I hope that he is as good as he has been all the way to the 18th of December, and then he goes back to being the pigeon that we know he has been all along at Spurs. Overall, I am happy. I'm happy with what we showed in that game against um, South Korea because we came out on the front foot. We were attacking. We were vibrant. We were irresistible. Neymar is back. I would like him to release the ball off his foot a little faster sometimes, but that has always been the story with Neymar. So it is. By this time, no, it is what it is. But I'll give you an opportunity to mention your French. We'll talk about your French team before we wrap this up tonight.
Yeah, I'm kind of like you. I have a few concerns when it comes to Deschamps and his tactical setup, and these are concerns I've voiced for a few years now. Um, he does tamper with the squad a little bit, like like trying to find new ways to incorporate certain players and whatnot. So I could respect that. I just I'm not always convinced that he makes the right decisions. I think he tampers with the team a bit too much. I don't know that I would have made 9 changes to that team for the final group stage game, but I guess in that vein, he was trying to give some guys playing time, and I was actually discussing this with Dom earlier. I guess it was kind of like an audition as well, try and see who could step up possibly to get a bit more game time in this knockout round. Um, what I'm honestly, some of our players need to step up. We've been riding off of the back of Mbappe for every game that he's played so far. The one, I mean, the loss to Tunisia, I'm not even counting that because it was a bunch of nine players who aren't regular starters who have. don't have the chemistry of having played together. So I'm not too concerned with that. In just the other games, though, even against Poland, like I said, I think we afforded Poland too much opportunity, and that is a worrying sign. I'm interested to see how Deschamps sets a team up against England because I it seems now that England are going to go with that midfield trio because what's his name Southgate tried it in the last game. It worked very well. All three of them boys were really good in midfield. So in terms of having like that numerical advantage in the middle of the park, he most likely will do that against us once again because we play with the central attacking mid or central striker in Griezmann.
Hmm.
Granted, he has more of a free role, so he's usually like roaming about. But I'm pretty sure that England will go with that midfield trio and then a front three again. So I'm kind of interested because this is something else that Dom and I were discussing earlier as well. I'm just interested in seeing if we continue with what we've been doing thus far in the competition, or if Deschamps himself goes with a midfield trio because I don't think that he trusts many players outside of that starting 11 and then maybe like two
Hmm.
or three off the bench. And I feel like I've mentioned this in one of our chats as well, right?
Hmm.
Like there are very limited names that can come off the bench and make an impact, and I feel like those are the guys he trusts. If we had to play to start a midfield trio, though, I feel like it. I believe it would be Guendouzi that he trusts most, and I hope that it would be because I'm not a huge fan of Vertu. I
Hmm.
think he's decent, but in terms of like having a third body in midfield, I think Guendouzi is the better complement um, based on what we have. But at the same time, I don't know that I would drop Griezmann because he has become like the elder statesman in the team, especially
Hmm.
given like the injuries that we had. So I still would go with him, but again, it is down to Deschamps and his tactics. And if he goes to Griezmann, I can't fault him. If he goes to the midfield trio, I'd kind of just hope that it works. But at the same time, he needs to be more open to make changes early and not stick with something that isn't working for too long because England has enough quality to be able to like dominate us in possession, right? Especially
Hmm.
with the way they've been playing in the last few games. So we we also do have their kryptonite, I believe, because we're really good counterattacking. We are really good counterattacking. So that could go either way, but can we need to step up. We need to step up. And as the tournament is going on and my team is progressing further and further, I'm saying that I want us to win. But before it started in earnest, I didn't even have us to win. So it's a heart versus head thing here, right? But you know how that goes. You know how that goes. But I just want to see a better overall team performance and not like us just getting the ball to Mbappe mainly and then trying to get him to do his thing. I need some more guys, and I don't think everyone else has been bad. We have been decent as a team, but the talent that we have on that team, those guys are capable of doing more individually. Honestly,
Okay,
and
understood.
this is the time. This is the time, and I just want more. This is, this man name always coming up in that particular chat. But you see, Dembele. This is when Dembele needs to have the game of his life for France. Is this game?
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, I think that that is a good spot that we can land this week's episode for the GreenBaje podcast. The good thing is that it's just one round of football before we are back. And then we can actually pay close attention to what's happening in the NFL on Sunday because there's no football games competing
Oh yeah,
with
right,
each
right,
other.
true.
So unfortunately, I know we have mentioned the Green Bay bracket challenge for the World Cup. I did not anticipate how quickly these games were coming. So by the time the group stage was set, I had no time to pull everything together. So I apologize for that. We will keep everything rolling for the playoff challenge, the NFL playoff challenge, which we always have more time. I obviously have more time to get that pulled together, so we will resume our bracketing at that point. So we will continue to make our picks here weekly, as the games progress because, like I said, the quarters go this week. The semis will be next week, Tuesday and Wednesday. So when we meet, we will know at least one of the identity, well, the identity of one team in the final, and we'll be able to figure out who the next team will be on Wednesday.
Hmm.
And then, well, we just keep it going as we always do. So, for all of you in the chat with us tonight, as always, we thank you for your input, your questions. We always love engaging with you. We are going to sign off for tonight. And as always, that is AJ. He is the green. I am Ken. I am the beige. And we will see you next time.